Hello everyone, this is Anthony Smith and I am conducting interview number 23 for SWCC operator syndrome. We are talking today with retired SWCC Stevie Lareza, and here is Stevie.
Well, hello, this is Steve Lareza. Most of you know me as Stevie Lareza. I was in class 04, pack 94, SWCC class, and I was stationed at Special Boat Unit / Team 12 from 94 to 2006. I was on board ribs, the PB, and also the Mark V. Boat Captain Mark V, Chang, qualified for Mark V as well. Did 5 deployments, numerous flyaways, and what more do you want to know?
That's it. All right, so interview number 23 is a testimonial of Steve's medical records and conditions. He answered questions from the following questionnaire formats and gave permission to produce this presentation and share it openly. We covered the operator syndrome scale, the GAD-7 scale, the PLC-5 scale, the PHQ-9, the NSI, and a SWCC background questionnaire. Steve Lareza was in the United States Navy for 20 years. He spent 15 years as a SWCC operator. He did 7 deployments overseas, several flyaways, served at SBU-12, SBT-12, worked in training department, worked on the Mark V's, 24-foot ribs, PBs, Mark III, Zodiacs. He has over 21,000 hours of SWCC fast boat time and an estimated 2.6 million wave pounding / whiplash events related impacts causing possible mTBI. So Navy SWCC is a special class of elite naval warriors who have been a decisive force behind some of America's most important secret missions. Special boat operations have unique and often deadly challenges due to the combination of operating powerful, sophisticated machines designed for speed and stealth in some of the planet's most inhospitable environments. The average SWCC career operator experiences mTBI and major orthopedic injuries over the course of their career in peacetime and in war. And Naval Special Warfare conducts missions in over 70 countries, 365 days a year. The sum of SWCC injury does not accumulate until the operator retires. Throughout this presentation and all the presentations that I do on SWCC, traumatic brain injury, and long-term orthopedic injury, we will focus a lot on a term called operator syndrome. It's not a medical diagnosis, it's a framework that we use to describe a nexus of symptoms. It was termed and written up and published by Dr. Christopher Free. There's a DOI link there to it as well. We're talking about the nexus of operator syndrome as it pertains to special warfare boat operators. And I contacted Dr. Free, spoke with him on the phone, have gone back and forth with him on email and communicating with him to better understand operator syndrome and what it is and how it pertains to the SOF community, and continue to collaborate with Dr. Free in the future. All right, so operator syndrome is not something that we understand as a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. What it is a qualitative descriptive framework involving a nexus of symptoms, and these symptoms are psychiatric illnesses and disorders along with chronic orthopedic injuries. Operator syndrome is an end state to a long career of high octane, high tempo, and high allostatic overload. Operator syndrome affects all SOF forces across all major branches. And when you look at the list of different SOF forces under SOCOM, you see Navy SWCC listed there. So this presentation is pertaining specifically to Navy SWCCs, or special warfare boat operators, and the end state operator syndrome and all this nexus of illness and injury. Okay, so here is a list of operator syndrome symptoms or illnesses. Basically, a big nexus collection of different things. Everything listed here is what makes up operator syndrome. So, traumatic brain injury, Stevie has that. He has endocrine dysfunction. He has sleep disturbance. He has obstructive sleep apnea. He has chronic joint and back pain, orthopedic problems, and headaches. He has depression and some issues with suicide, PTSD, anger, worry, rumination, and stress reactivity, marital, family, and community dysfunction, problems with sexual health and intimacy, being on guard or hypervigilant, memory, concentration, and cognitive issues, vestibular and vision issues, challenges he dealt with transitioning from the military to civilian life, a mindset discounts the future, fear of developing invisible wounds, and so on and so forth. Okay, like all of us, Steve has a long list of physical, emotional, mental issues, and we're going to kind of go through those in the next two slides. TBI, he has a diagnosis from Tulane, no VA rating for that. He has PTSD with a VA rating. He has anxiety with a VA rating, depression with a VA rating, mood swings, which was diagnosed, or mood disorder, which was diagnosed at Tulane. Possible neurocognitive disorder is what they told him at Tulane. He's still awaiting further testing and results. Sleep apnea has a diagnosis, CPAP, and a VA rating. Insomnia, difficulty staying asleep with a VA rating. He has a lot of your issues pretty common with the things here in operator syndrome, which are irritability, mental fatigue, problems with speech, dizziness, vision and hearing issues, tinnitus, trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, mood swings, personality changes, concentration and focus issues, a little pleasure in doing things, of reading and hearing difficulties. He also has headaches and migraines, which are pretty severe without, and does not have a VA rating for that. Hypervigilance, which is pretty severe, short-term and long-term memory issues, severe short-term memory issues, sensitivity to light and noise, which is pretty severe. He has osteoarthritis in his knees, his ankles, his wrists, and degenerative joint disease. Okay, so continuing on with these issues and orthopedic injuries. He has C-spine issues, pain, discomfort, and compression. T-spine compression and pain. L-spine compression, bulging disc and pain. He has numbness in his extremities. His hands fall asleep. Issues with his feet. He has chronic joint pain, high blood pressure and cholesterol, low testosterone and ED. Apparent symptoms of allostatic overloading, tinnitus, episodes of seizures in the past, episodes of tachycardia in the past, no history of contact sports. He has a recent ADD diagnosis from Tulane, and he has 4 spots on his brain, which showed up on his MRI, and apparently he has one that is of concern and that they're watching. All right, so here are some issues and symptoms experienced due to high-speed SWC boat operations that are common among SWC operators. He experienced full body slamming and whiplash from high G-force impact, wave pounding on SWC boats. He experienced blackouts due to wave pounding on SWC boats. He experienced seeing stars and spots in vision due to wave or high G-force impact wave pounding on SWC boats. He experienced mental fatigue due to high G-force impact wave pounding. He experienced 4 to 10 foot seas during high G-force impact wave pounding. He experienced concentration and lack of focus due to high G-force impact wave pounding on SWC boats. He experienced orthopedic injuries due to SWC fast boats operations and mostly spinal issues. And thinking with his current physical, emotional, and psychological conditions in mind, he did not have these physical, emotional, and psychological conditions when he became a 9533 SWC operator. He believes his conditions and issues are attributed to SWC fast boat operations. And the picture here that you see is a detachment and deployment that Stevie and I were in together back in late 90s, early 2000s. Cool. Okay, so for traumatic brain injury for SB1, SWCC, Steve Lareza. The average SWCC operator logs about 3,000 hours of boat time in a deployment cycle, according to a 94 Roche study. Research conducted underway studies on NSW fast boats for 6 days and over a period of 36 hours, which totaled 8,610 wave impacts ranging from 2 to 25 G forces. Of the 8,610 wave impacts, 4,496 impacts ranged above 5 Gs. These 4,496 5G or greater impacts in a 36-hour time span equals about 124 significant whiplash events in an hour. The average SWCC operator endures about 124 whiplash events in an hour uh, out operating fast boats. So the average SWCC operator possibly endures about 374,640 significant G-force impacts from wave pounding on SWCC boats in a deployment cycle. So if you take that number and multiply it by at least 7, you get about 2,622,480 significant full body impacts while wave slamming on SWCC boats, which causes disastrous long-term effects of chronic orthopedic injury, whiplash, and mTBI, and other issues. So that 2.6 million is a lot, and that's somewhere in the ballpark of what Stevie endured. All right, so here's a summary of operator syndrome for SB1 retired SWCC Steve Lareza. You may hear some thunder and lightning. I'm in South Mississippi, and we're in the middle of a thunderstorm. Anyway, etologically speaking, Steve is a 56-year-old retired SWCC operator as of right now, June 2023, with 15 years of SWCC boat service, 7 plus the SWCC deployment cycles, including 21,000 hours of SWCC boat time, causing over 2.6 million significant full body impacts while wave pounding on SWCC boats. Steve has over 25 symptoms of mTBI and a nexus of operator syndrome symptoms and illnesses. He endured full body slamming and whiplash from wave pounding at significant G-force exposure, causing service-connected TBI, insomnia, sleep apnea, allostatic overload, and other mental issues, but still lacks VA ratings for some. Steve has been to Tulane, their TBI clinic, where he was diagnosed with numerous post-concussion symptoms, which impede his quality of life. Long-term effects of mTBI and major orthopedic injuries are debilitating for SWCC operators like Steve. Steve has a 100% disability rating from the VA. According to Steve, when he was a young SWCC operator first getting on SWCC boats, he did not have any significant mental, physical, or emotional impairments compared to now after many years of being on SWCC fast boats. Steve does not have a history of contact sports. All right. Okay, some conclusions from this ongoing SWCC TBI research project. I've conducted 23 interviews or record reviews with former SWCC operators and conducted an online SWCC TBI and orthopedic injury survey with 314 participants. 100% of 300 plus SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed have significant TBI exposure contributing to a nexus of post-concussion symptoms. All of them have a list of PCS symptoms. They all have TBI. 2 were SEAL and 12 were NSW support, were Stevies. All were attached to boat teams, and they also reported TBI and orthopedic injuries related to NSW fast boat service. The 2 SEALs were from DevGru. There were probably hundreds or thousands of SEALs with issues related to fast boat service, very common to what we see with the SWCC guys. DevGru started a fast boat program back in the early 90s, and all the other guys that were in that program have these issues. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed experienced full body high G-force wave pounding, contributing to whiplash, repetitive mTBI, and orthopedic injury from SWCC boat operations, which is proven to cause mental, emotional, and physical injury. In the survey I conducted, 82% have orthopedic injuries from SWCC boat service, 82%, extremely high number. 90% have spinal injuries. 27% are suicidal. So some startling numbers. SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed thus far who were never diagnosed with TBI before TBI protocols were implemented lacked the VA ratings for service-connected injuries due to SWCC fast boat service. And since TBI protocols were implemented in naval special warfare, many modern SWCC operators have attended NICO or other TBI clinics while on active duty and have VA ratings for TBI and other PCS symptoms. Information in this presentation provides evidence that Steve was a SWCC operator, owned SWCC fast boats, and for multiple deployments. And the aggregate of data collected in these interviews and SWCC TBI survey connect long-term TBI and post-concussion syndrome and orthopedic injury to SWCC boat service. So does the survey. Most importantly, thousands of former and retired SWCC operators suffer from long-term mTBI and major orthopedic injury without acknowledgement or help from the VA or DoD. There is a gap in TBI research on the retired SWCC operator peer group, as members of this group suffer severe long-term issues of TBI and major orthopedic injuries. And lastly, references for SWCC TBI are listed in my presentation titled SWCC TBI, posted on my YouTube page. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you got something out of it. Please listen up for more videos as I continue to do more interviews and talk with guys and record the data and compile the evidence so that all guys that are SWCC related can get help with TBI claims. Thanks a lot.